Confluence is an extremely flexible tool that can help your organization create, manage, and share a wide variety of documents. But each of these documents is not made equal. Some of them may need to go through a specific process or review and approval stage before they can be finalized. This is where the Workflow Builder in Workflows for Confluence can make it really easy for you to bring your document management processes into Confluence and create the workflows that are right for different teams, projects, and document types. The Workflow Builder in Workflows for Confluence makes it really easy to map your business processes to Confluence and bring structure to how your teams create, manage, approve, and publish documents. And in this short video, I'm going to show you how to start building your own custom workflows, and we'll explore the different document statuses and automated actions that are available for you to use. By the end of this video, you'll be able to create both simple and more complex workflows like the one that you can see here on the screen. So with that being said, let's jump in. First, we'll start by accessing the Workflow Builder. You'll need to be either a Confluence system admin or a space admin to access this. If you're a space admin, you can access the Workflow Builder using the space settings on the left-hand side. Once in the space settings, click Workflows in the App Links section, and this will open the Workflows table. Now that we're here, we'll come back to this in more detail shortly. Going from a Confluence system admin's perspective, if you want to create workflows that can be used across your entire Confluence instance, you need to access the global configuration settings. Start by clicking into the settings menu in the top right-hand corner here. And on the left-hand side, when Workflows is installed, you'll have these 6 options. You just need to click into Workflows, which is the second option down. And this will open the Global Workflows table. The Workflows table is where you can create, manage, and view all of your workflows that are available at a global level. Before we dive into the Workflow Builder, there are a few important parts of the Workflows table and manager that you should be aware of, and we have created another video that will walk you through this in more detail. You can find a link to this on the screen or also in the video description below, and I'd recommend taking a look. Okay, so let's move into the Workflow Builder. If you want to create your own custom workflows and use the Workflow Builder, start by pressing Create on the right-hand side here. You need to first give your workflow a name and a description, and this is what will appear in the Workflows table and manager in the background that you can see here. I'd recommend adding a name and description that is helpful to not just yourself, but your wider team, because this will be visible to Confluence users and it will help them find the right workflow. So if you have lots of them, it's important they're named appropriately. So in this example, I'll call this one the finance team workflow and just give it a simple description. After you've got a name and description, click Create, and this will open the Workflow Builder. So this is effectively a blank canvas where you can build your workflow processes in Confluence. Just to talk through some of the key elements on the page, on the left-hand side you have the trigger, logic, and action section, which I'll talk through in more detail shortly. At the bottom of the screen, you have 2 different options to select your workflow, plus the ability to zoom in and zoom out, which is pretty useful if you have more complex or large workflows. So let's start with creating a simple approval workflow, and as we go, I'll talk you through the different sections that are on the left-hand side of the screen. So every workflow should always start with the create trigger, and this can be placed at the top of the screen here. Workflows operate in a linear fashion, so that's why we're placing the create trigger at the top of the screen. Next up, we have the logic in the left-hand menu, and this brings the structure to your Confluence pages by adding either page statuses or approval processes into your workflow. You can add a status to your workflow by either clicking on the status option or by dragging it into the canvas. Statuses are really important and they help you define exactly which stages you want your pages to transition through. So if I take a look at a page as an example, at the top of the screen here, you'll see this status applied, and this is due to Workflows for Confluence. The status is entirely customizable, and in this example, it's draft, but the next status or stage of the workflow might say something different, like in review, published, under consideration, etc. And this is entirely in your control. So to follow the example you've just seen, I will call this status draft. So you just click into the status, and on the right hand side, you can rename it whatever you like. So in this example, we're creating a very simple approval workflow. So the next logic that we want to add is the approval status or the approval node. So again, just drag this into the canvas and then position it into the place you want it to be. We're going to rename this one in review. And this is where you can choose your approvers. So this might be specific users or groups that you want to approve content. So I'll start by clicking into the approval panel, and here I can choose either my approvers or groups, and this will pull through the individuals from your Confluence instance. So in this example, I'll just add myself. Now, there are lots of options available for configuration in the approval panel, and we won't go through these in detail in this video, but we do have documentation available that can walk you through all these different options. But if you get stuck or need assistance, by all means, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll be happy to help. So now we've got the approval status, we just need to drag in a few other statuses for approved and rejected. So we'll start with approved. And here, and make sure the colors are set correctly. And we'll move to add rejected. We'll change the color of this one to red, and that's what will appear in the Confluence page itself. So if I go back to the page, the color you're choosing is the color that will appear at the top of the screen here. Perfect. So there we have all the statuses added to the page and the approval node that we wanted. So that covers off triggers and logic. Just before we move on to action, it's worth noting that you can have multiple approval cycles. So if I wanted to add a second stage of review, I just add another approval node onto the canvas, rename it accordingly, set it up accordingly, and you're good to go. But in this example, we'll just keep it simple and keep it as a one-stage approval process. So now we'll move on to the workflow actions. And as you can see on the left-hand side, there are lots of different options here. These provide a wide range of actions that trigger automatically throughout your workflows based on where you place them within the workflow itself. And it can really help you automate parts of the process that would otherwise be manual. There are lots to choose from, and we would highly recommend that you use the ones that are right for your teams and your organization. You can use single actions in your workflows or multiple actions in your workflows, and you can use different ones across the different workflows in your Confluence instance. So we would recommend taking the time to test them out and working out which one works best for you. In this video, I'll cover some of the most popular actions. So let's first start with set permissions. This will effectively hide a page from view until it has reached a certain status. And this can be really useful if you want to hide a page from view until it has reached a certain point in the workflow, for example, approved. You may wish to keep a page restricted from access until it's reached that status, so whilst it's going through draft and in review, your wider audience in Confluence cannot view or access that page. The next one is email. If you want to send a custom email to someone at a certain point in the workflow, this is where this action comes in really useful. This could be particularly helpful if people are not part of the workflow itself, for example, those that are involved in the approval process, but they are involved in this document or this process overall, and they need to be kept in the loop. It's important to note that workflows for Confluence will, by default, email the reviewers in your approval process when a document or a page is sent to them for their review. However, these emails can be turned off in the approval logic settings, as you can see on the screen here. You'll also notice that comments and labels are available as actions in workflows for Confluence, and these will automatically add comments or labels to the page at certain points in the workflow. And depending on the way that you work in Confluence, this could be really useful. Publish content enables you to publish pages to other spaces or pages within your Confluence instance, and this is a really powerful action if you had a space that was internal only, or maybe a work in progress space, and this was the place that you created all of your draft content and put everything through the review process. And once you've then finished that review process, you wanted to automatically put that page into another space, which is then available to your wider Confluence organization. The publish content action is perfect for this use case. So you would put the publish content action in the workflow, and we'll drag it into the place that it would be. So you'd place it here before the approved status. And once the document has been approved, it would then publish it to the space or the place of your choosing, which would help you achieve that use case I mentioned just now. And finally, we have the webhooks and the Slack messages. Workflows for Confluence has been designed to bring all of your collaboration tools together. And through the use of webhooks, you can do things like create a Jira issue at a certain point of a workflow, or send a Slack message to specific channels at certain points in the workflow. And this is great if your teams are collaborating on Slack, you can send them messages to the places that they're already working. Once you've added all the logic and actions that you want in a workflow, it's time to connect them together. And you can do this just by clicking the nodes here, as you can see, and just connecting them in linear fashion. When you're happy, click Save Workflow in the top right-hand corner, and this will add it to the workflow table. If I click Next, I will find that my workflow is here. The workflow is inactive by default, so you just need to enable it by toggling on this option here. So if I now go to a page in Confluence, I'll click Apply Workflow at the top of the screen, follow the prompt to apply the workflow, and then this will display all of the global workflows that I have available in Confluence. And as you can see here, the finance team workflow is now available for me to apply. If I click apply, this will refresh and apply the workflow to the page, and you'll see the first status at the top, which was draft. And there we have it. That's a quick tour of the Workflow Builder. If you're new to workflows and considering trying it out, you can get a free 30-day trial on the Atlassian Marketplace by following the link in the video description below. And just remember, we're here to help you get the most out of workflows, so if you want to learn more about any of the features in the product, be sure to check out our user guides by following the link shown on screen now. Or, if you have any questions, just send an email to support@atfox.io and one of our customer support team will be happy to help.